everyone, and welcome back to the Mystery Theory. For those of you who were wondering about when I was going back to do these videos like this in front of the camera, I figured out what it was the problem with the microphone, so I ordered some kind of adapter, and it should be in sometime this week. However, all the cases that I'm going to share with you this week, including the podcast, won't be in that format because I already had these cases ready, the audio ready for you, in the hopes of uploading them in Thanksgiving week, but I just couldn't do it. I want to apologize, and I want to say thank you for everyone that has been checking up on me. Everything it's kind of crazy right now, and that is why I decided not to redo these videos in this format. My grandma had a stroke the day after Thanksgiving, and it's you know it's been crazy, and I think that one of my weaknesses is when I feel helpless, and that's how I feel right now. When somebody is sick or going through something in the hospital, a sickness or something, it's very hard for me to function in normal ways. So I guess what I'm trying to say is this week that I had no videos, the last week of November that I had no videos, it just wasn't meant to be. I just couldn't sit in front of a camera and do anything. My grandma's still in the hospital, she's still in a coma, and even though the reports say that it should be okay, I mean, she's 80 years old, so we're all hoping and praying and that she'll come back to us. But it's been a hard couple of weeks, and just to make things worse, we were away for Thanksgiving. We left the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and the signal, the messages were not getting through, and it's been crazy. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. Probably too much information anyways, huh? Anyways, since I have nowhere to redo those videos this week, I am getting ready everything for next week, which is going to be the first week of December. And I'm going to have regular content Monday and Friday, ASMR, and then Wednesday I am going to be doing my regular podcast that I will upload here and in the podcast itself for you to listen if you want to. I had a little poll and I asked you guys if you were interested in seeing these ASMR cases in a podcast format, and so you wouldn't need internet, you could download them and then delete them as you please, and a lot of people said yes, so I am planning to start that in the new year. So January, I am kind of lining up the different requests that I have in cases so I can have extra content for you. Now the update is over, and I'm gonna start with today's case, which, by the way, I wanted to share it because this Monday, because it's one of those disappearances that it really doesn't make any sense. I am sure that you heard something about this boy who went missing in the Smoky Mountains near the Appalachian Trail, and his name is Dennis Martin. He, and again, I'm gonna go through the story and how he ended up there, how he disappeared, but he was 60 years old and he vanished without a trace. There were special has vanished. There are no footprints, there are no blood, there is no any kind of trail that you can follow. It's almost like somebody took him from space or something. It really doesn't make any sense. I am going to go through that day, how he disappeared, and also the following months, and where a lot of bizarre things started happening, and the investigation involving a lot of different agencies that are usually not involved in this kind of case. Before I leave you with the case, I want to say that I love our national parks. They are my favorite places to visit. Here in Utah, we have quite a few, and I visited some of them, and I just have to tell you that the chances of something happening to you in a national park are really one in millions. And if you just don't go because of this bad reputation that a lot of the media is trying to come up with around them, then you are missing out. You're missing out in wonderful things in nature. You're missing out in history, in what history says about us. And I think that if we don't know our history, we're more than likely going to repeat it, and sometimes it's not a good thing. So, anyways, I'm going to leave you with today's case. Today we're going to talk about the bizarre vanishing of Dennis Martin. I have to say that I am a national park lover, and when I started reading different articles where they were saying the dangers of visiting a national park, I was like, what the heck are you talking about? It really bothered me to read that article, but I found a few cases of people that disappeared in a national park, and this is the most haunting one for me because Dennis Martin vanished into thin air. When he vanished, he was, the best truckers were called, and these people, that's what they do for a living. They are part of the, they got them from everywhere, the National Guard, the Special Forces Unit, which, by the way, that's kind of interesting how that happened. I'll tell you that in this video, but, it's one of those things that it leaves you wondering, and all they would say is, there is no tracks of this kid, and there is no way that he could have been in this area and vanished. It's almost like he was suctioned from the sky, because there's nothing to go on. And how can these people that's what they do for a living, that are able to find wounded soldiers, or how and so I decided to share this case with you because, again, I feel like it's kind of the Anasazi disappearance that I don't know how many theories we can have on this, but I'll share some of the ones that are more popular. Now, Dennis Martin and his family, Dennis was only 6 years old when this happened, and his family had this tradition that they would go to visit the Great Smoky Mountains National Park every year. And in 1969, for Father's Day weekend, they decided to take some kind of what I understand was kind of a guy's trip, or something to spend time together. And Dennis was 6 years old, as I mentioned before. His older brother, his father, and grandfather were the ones going. There is also some mention of other families that went, but I'm not used to hiking these trails. In particular, that Father's Day weekend, they hiked from Gates Cove to Russell Field and camped there overnight. Now, the next day, they got up and decided to hike Spencefield near the Appalachian Trail, which is something that I want to do so bad. I can't wait. I have plans to do it, but okay, this was right by it where I want to go. So they were planning to spend the night there. Okay, when they arrived, the adults in the party were tired, so they decided to rest, sit around, and kind of talk to each other while the kids were playing around. They were in the same area, okay, so please don't get me wrong. They weren't being ignored or anything. They were all together, but Dennis and his brother, along with two other boys that were in the same trip, decided to play a prank on their parents. So they were going to spread out into the woods, hide, and then jump out of, the bushes from different directions. And that was the idea, okay? It's a typical boy thing. I mean, I'm not saying that all boys will do this, but pulling pranks on people. I have 3 boys and 1 girl, and let me tell you, the boys are that way. Now, or were, because now they're all older. Now, when they decided to spread out, which is something that it really bothers me, but I guess that's what happened. 3 of the boys hid closer together to each other, but Dennis decided to go into a different area and hide by himself, even though he was the youngest of the group. According to some of the research that I did, he was wearing a red bright shirt, which is something that you do when you're hiking, of course. You want your kids to be safe and being easily spotted. And I don't think in a national park they would be allowed to hunt, but if you're hiking, just as an overall precaution, you try to look yourself, very bright for hunters and people that might be around. Again, not in a national park, but I get the idea of a little boy wearing something very bright so he could be spotted easier. Okay, so the 3 boys, and they waited for the cue, and then they jumped to scare the parents, but Dennis never came out. They waited for him. Everyone did. They were just, he missed the cue, his timing was off and whatever. But after a few minutes, they realized he wasn't coming out. So his dad went to check the bushes, but he was nowhere to be found. Bill, which was Dennis' dad, went in one direction, and Clyde, who was the grandpa, went the other direction in the trail, and kind of opposite to each other. And they started calling his name, but still couldn't find him. So, okay, a lot of people, I feel like they feel like it really did take them a really long time to contact the rangers, but you just have to understand that he was hiding to scare his parents, and they just didn't think that he'd be too far away. So yeah, they did started looking for him, just the grandpa and the father and the friends, but once they realized that he wasn't around, they contacted the park rangers, which I hope that it wasn't too far away, because think about it, this was in 1969. Is that where was it? Yeah, 1969. I just don't want to get my dates wrong, but so I'm sure that they probably had to walk to the ranger station, and I don't know how close that was, but that could have taken them extra time. So for those people that think that it took them too long, well, I'm sure was a reason why. And again, even nowadays, if you're trying to get a good signal, cell signal in a national park, good luck with that. It's like they're dead zones. Well, most of them anyways. Now, the search continued once they contacted park rangers, and they continued until nightfall, when heavy rain started and, thundering and everything. So the search was called off. I am sure that his parents, well, at least the dad and the grandpa, didn't stop, but the search itself, the rangers, was called off when that started. Now keep in mind that the rangers were able to check the area where he disappeared way before the storm came. So I am sure that they are very capable people, or they were very capable people, to see if there was any tracks, but they couldn't find any. Now the news reported the boy missing the next day, and a family decided to contact the authorities to report that the day before they were at the park too, and only a few hours after Dennis disappeared, and only 6 miles away where he disappeared, this family heard a boy scream, and even movement in a bush, and at first they thought it was a bear, but it turned out to be a man with something over his shoulder. Okay, I get it, you're hiking and everything, but if you're thinking that this guy is kind of running away from you with something in his shoulder, I would have reported that, but apparently they didn't think anything of it. Maybe they thought it was a backpack. You never know. The authorities... Okay, this is the most upsetting... Well, this is not the most upsetting, but it's one of the upsetting things in this case. The authorities determined that 6 miles was a long distance between where he disappeared and where he was apparently seen by these people. So it was probably not related. Really? Are you kidding me? 6 miles, 2 hours after he disappeared? I don't think so. I'm not an expert, but I don't think so. Hundreds of people joined the search. Rangers, locals, volunteers, FBI, National Guard, even psychics and bloodhounds with, helicopters. It was a big thing. Everyone believed that he was alive, and they knew that he was a very, strong kid, and with a lot of hiking experience, because he's been hiking since he was a baby, basically, with his family. So everyone hoped to find him alive. Heavy rains and fog, a lot of flooding roads made the search harder, but they even came up with a reward for any information that would lead to the boys, or finding the boy in this case. I get it. There's a lot more, and this is something that it's done in every single case that I cover. The reward, it kind of encourages people to speak up. So it made sense. But as weeks went by, the hope to find him alive was at its lowest, and they ended up finding, in all that search that they did, a little footprint and a little boy's underwear. But the mom said that that wasn't Dennis' underwear, and the police said that they didn't think it was Dennis. It was probably from somebody else. The search continued for months, but volunteers were less and less as the time went by, and the hopes were very low. They assumed that by then he was probably dead. So a few theories started coming out. Number 1, he was kidnapped. The family, I had to make a pause there because you're not looking at my face, but I'm possible that somebody was looking for somebody to hurt? Yeah, it's possible. Is it possible that, it was a hiker, maybe hiking the Appalachian Trail in looking to find somebody? Yeah, it's possible. But the family just couldn't believe it. Theory number 2 said that he got lost, but how can you get lost? According to his dad, that's what he said. The area where they were hiding was a very small area. I mean, it wasn't like surrounded by the woods. It's kind of a clearing, and they didn't wander around. Even the other boys saw him hiding, and he wasn't that kind of kid that would wander far away, because again, he knew the dangers of being alone in the woods. So the family they just can't believe that he got lost. Somebody must have taken him. But if they don't believe either that it was a kidnapping, it kind of, I don't know, it's living out of options, right? And the theory number 3 is that he was attacked and eaten by an animal. One of the things that you will know for sure is if there's an animal attack, you will be able to tell, because animals are hunting, and that is their instinct, so they're not going to hide where they attack. They're not gonna hide the blood. They're not gonna, lick it clean, every spot of blood, or, if they're going to drag the little boy, there will be drag marks. They're not hiding it. They're not committing murder. So they have nothing to hide. That's their habitat. And if they're going to hunt, they're going to hunt, and they're not sorry. Again, it's an instinct. It's an animal. And if he was in fact taken by some kind of wildlife, there would have been some kind of tracks that would point to that direction. Now, that is why you see in the news that, when there's a bear attack, or where is a mountain lion attack, they have these trackers that will go and find that animal because of the tracks that he left behind, and kill him if he attacked a human. Which is another story. Maybe I'll talk about it in the future, but it's crazy. I think that a lot of the animal attacks are, it's not gonna get into it, but okay, so there were a few inconsistencies, or let's call them weird things, in this particular case. One of the reports, and this is by an FBI agent, I'm not just saying that, the father noticed this or the family noticed it. No, this was reported by authorities. Probably they didn't put it in the news, or they didn't do an interview and talked about it, because it's pretty weird. But apparently the dogs couldn't pick up the scent, and these are trained dogs for this specific reasons, and they are used to working in a storm after a storm, in water. I mean, these are the best of the best. And the worst thing was that they would refuse to walk, and they would whine in fear. So the question is, what were they afraid of? What could they sense that humans cannot sense? Well, if you ask me, a lot more. Because humans are pretty consumed by themselves, and sometimes I feel like that leaves us kind of useless, to say the least, to sense things in our own environment. Now, inconsistency number 2 is that Special Forces unit was called, okay, this is based on something that was. There was this guy that apparently he was part. Well, he claimed that he was part of special forces and he was retired now. And he said that there was no way that special forces would go to a civilian operation. That's how he called it. And that is the job for the National Guard and not for special forces. And that if they in fact were called, well, we know that they were called, they were there, but they have trackers that can find almost anything, anytime, anywhere. They make it their life's, their life's mission to be the best at what they are, because they need the very best at this special unit, special forces unit. So if they wanted to find somebody, they would be able to. This is according to this guy that he made a big fuss online. But just so you know, I needed to mention this so you have an idea. But he also said in his comment that I think that there were only 2 other cases where special forces were called, but they are more into more national security kind of thing, and they are not going. There is no way to verify that what he said is true because it's confidential information that no civilian will have access to. And that's okay, because that's what they're for. They're doing their jobs, and their jobs in order to keep us safe is just to do it and not be talking about it. So take it with a grain of salt what this guy said. But I'm assuming that if they're called special forces, and if they are not called in every single instance that a boy or anybody for that matter is missing, I'm assuming that this was a special case for them. But the most interesting thing of this weirdness or interesting fact is that they were not only there, but they would not cooperate with the local authorities, and they were heavily armed, almost like they knew they were in danger. But why? What did they know that the police didn't? What did they know to have them be ready for the worst? What is the worst? What is the worst case scenario? I have no idea, but it's haunting. And number 3, the FBI investigator. This is another interesting fact. He was the head investigator in this, Jim Reich. He committed suicide for unknown reasons. And I don't know. I'm not sure, but some people say that he killed himself around the anniversary of this boy's disappearance. So I don't know. That is private information for the families that, for the family of this person. So I'm not going to be digging around, but it's something that it said. So Dennis was 6 years old. He had some experience with hiking, but something that you should also know, that he was a kid with a learning disability. He was being, I don't want to say treated, but he had the help he needed. He was starting to get the help he needed to succeed. And so even though he did have experience in hiking and he had the knowledge of how dangerous it is to be by yourself in the woods, he still had a little bit of a learning disability. And the mom can't believe that or the family can't believe that he would wander around. He wasn't as secure, or he was as confident in himself to do that. So, how did he disappear? Again, my feelings are the same as the Anasazi video that I shared with you a few weeks ago. And I have it on the top of the screen. That was an entire, I'm gonna call it tribe, because they were the ancestors of another tribe, the Pueblos, and they vanished into thin air, leaving no tracks behind. So I feel like I'm in the same position right now. My reasoning tells me that he was taken by something. Maybe it was out of this world, but something that picked him up, and I don't know what else could it be, because if he was picked up by a four-wheeler or by I don't know, something like that, there would have been tracks. There's not gonna come a plane and pick the boy up and leave a notice. You know what I mean? It's kind of a supernatural answer that I have to this very odd case. But it doesn't help either, because I just can't imagine how the family must have felt about, I have a 6-year-old nephew, and I wouldn't let him out of my sight because he is a little daredevil, and he's always causing trouble wherever he is. So I would be afraid to, but I understand how these kids, were playing around. You would let your kids play hide and seek in a small area where, you're looking at them, you're watching them. How can a 6-year-old disappear? I can picture my nephew disappearing, and I just can't really wrap my head around it. Not only on the how somebody that little can disappear so fast with such short legs, but how the family must have felt after I tried to picture in my head those seconds when they're like, where is Dennis? He's not with me, not with me, not with me. He was hiding right there, and then looking for him and not finding it. That must be some of the most horrible nightmare for a parent, for a grown-up. I don't care if it's your son, your nephew, your neighbor. I feel like that'd be a nightmare to live. I wish I could give you an answer of what really happened here, but I'm gonna leave you right now. And I would like you to leave a comment and let me know what you think that could have happened. This was thank you so